The NFL stands for not for long.
Set, Sharga and Armstead. Roll out, Walker still running out. Looks to the left, wide open, Thompson touchdown. Colin Thompson with the touchdown. There was nobody within 20 yards of him.
What a catch off the bobble. Colin Thompson scoops it up.
Lofting corner, the end zone. It is caught for the touchdown. The first NFL touch for Colin Thompson is a score.
What's up, everybody? Hope everybody's pretty abrupt intro there, Jack. What's up? Like, people like, have you ever done called someone and their voicemail is like, "Hey," and then they pause and then they go into the voicemail? Have you know any friends that do that? I've had a couple, and you're like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" Never.
I don't know if I've seen on shows. I don't know if I've ever had it happen to me. Like, I can't pick out like one way or the other. There's the times where it's like it changes, like the static or whatever it is in the background, like change from like the calling to voicemail, and you think they picked up, and you go, "Hey," before anything happens, and then it's just like you've reached the voicemail box of.
They hung up on you, Jack. That's what you're trying to say.
Well, like it goes through the ring through. It hits like the whole 30 seconds. It was my mom. My mom doesn't hang up on me. At least I hope not.
Yeah. Depends if you mow the lawn right that day or not. Neither here nor there. My buddy Eddie now, shout out, security for the Panthers for quite some time. Big NASCAR guy, and he'd be like, we'd get his voicemail and be like, "Hey, I'm either at the track or at the stadium. Call me." And he'd be like, "Hey, Eddie, what's up?" Like, so that's good. People got to start doing that in voicemails. It's so serious. Sorry, I'm not picking up the phone right now. Please leave your name and number. I got to change mine. The best is Mike Burton's voicemail, because you never get a hold of him because he's constantly in grind mode. Grinder, Burton, year 10, acting like he's not going to make the team. He's like one of the best fullbacks in the league. Guy's a stud. First off, even if they'd be crazy to cut him, and if they did, someone else would pick him up in a second. Guy's a beast. Burton, you're a stud. Not that you've listened to this. I'm sure all you do is do football and playbook stuff. I'm off the rails. Neither here nor there. Welcome back to the Colin Thompson Show. That's Jack Cano, lawn mowing, groundhog chasing, koi pond, goldfish pond extraordinaire. I appreciate everybody tuning into the show. Everything we do here at Not For Long Media is brought to you by Boiron USA. Arnicare. Guys, I've been saying it for years. I've been saying it for, let's see, we've been working with them now for 6 months. It's been a year. But really what I've been saying, I wish I had 4 years, was the product. Someone who's constantly dealing with soreness of playing in the NFL and playing football and dealing with hand injuries, and you can't even like drive your car home because your hands are so throttled from the game. Literally put their pain relieving gel on. And it's not just like a quick fix, like, "Oh, it's gone, see ya." It really helps with inflammation, helps with your movement. Movement is key. So it allows me to move better, which allows me to recover better, which allows me to perform better. So, I believe in all the products that support our pod. People say that, right? And they're like, "Oh, I'll take whatever the business and you run," right? But I really do. From everyone we've worked with, Wealth Advisory Services, they represent all my friends, my family, myself. The original Fudge Kitchen, I've been going there since I was like 3 years old. FudgeKitchens.com, shipping fudge and sweet treats around the country. Boiron Arnicare came to my attention, BoironUSA.com. Through a friend, met with them, fell in love with the product, and was like, "Man, I wish I had this early in my career." So, yeah, I get it. It's a sponsorship and all that, but truly great people, a great business, homeopathic care. I'm into it. I've changed like everything I've done football-wise and nutrition-wise and health-wise. Like, okay, don't give me the pain med. Don't give me the pound of pasta every night like I used to do. Let's go heavy protein, and I feel ridiculously good. So, yeah. That's it. That's my health talk of the day, Jack. How was your 5-mile walk today, pal?
It was actually really beautiful. I don't know if it's like this down in Annapolis. It's like 63 degrees outside today.
Jack was in the 50s this morning, bud. Tremendous.
Insane. In August, too. Like, this is the day you wish you had. Like, if you're like, this is the perfect 2-a-day practice. But I think we're out of 2 days now in high school. Like,
imagine that coming out today to camp. Oh my God.
But I don't think we're in week 1 now, at least in PIAA. I don't know about down in Maryland or anything. This is week 1, so it's not even camp anymore.
Speaking of walks, I saw this today. I thought it was interesting. People, everyone's trying to be leaner, right? Myself included, like constantly trying to find new ways. This is the opposite of what I would think. Want to lose fat? This is a guy I really respect on Instagram. James D. Nicolatonio. That's actually better than I thought it was going to go. Set the treadmill at 10% incline, walk 2 to 3 miles an hour, do it for 30 minutes a day, 3 weeks, 3 times per week. And you'll be rocking and rolling. That's interesting. But the walk was good, Jack. Did you see anything on your walk before we get into sports?
I think my walk now. It's a pretty quiet walk. It usually is. I mean, there's nothing really ever going on.
Okay. Nothing new. Who do you have any phone calls or is it a podcast? Like, what are you listening to on that walk?
Usually, like, I try to conduct business on my walks between our people, J. Brad and G. I'll just, if I need to get a hold of them for something, I'll give them a buzz.
Businessman. Okay.
I'm not a businessman. I'm a businessman. Who sang that?
I have no idea.
Jay-Z.
Okay. I mean, this is good today. Like, we're having a little bit of an off the rails show to start, and you're participating in it. It's not me talking to myself. So that's good. Jack, do you want to fill everyone in on these kind of CTE, food, drinks, football, Baldy breakdowns we're working on? Shout out to Baldy. I mean, anybody who's doing a breakdown, if they don't pay respect to Baldy, they're lying, right? Baldy started this. Go ahead, Jack. What do you got? Explain. Do my job for me.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing not we. I'm just going to be editing accounts, the football brains behind this, or at least he claims to be. Some football-related breakdowns, talking about whatever across the league, depending on tight ends or whatever really strikes Colin as an interest. So we're going to be making some nice, quick social media clips of that, be pretty consistent weekly. I mean, it's a big shout out to, we had the idea beforehand, but NFL Pro coming out has been massive. It's anything like if you're a football film junkie, if you remember like Game Pass from like 2020, from like before they changed it, it's very similar to that now. I would say even more filters. Like if you go back and you like watching a game in passing, you see, oh, that was a great run out of shotgun by McCaffrey, handoff. And it was like some weird, like whatever. Like it's like, oh, that was a great play by encounter, whatever. You can search it by formation, every single possible filter to find that within like 20 seconds.
Yeah.
And every possible angle. Like it's incredible.
We're Jack Connell about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
As I'm dropping lights in this Bush League production I have set up behind me here. It's gritty, Jack. That's who we are. Yeah, I'm excited. No, they're coming soon. We are off the rails here, and that's summertime. It's okay. I want to bury the lead here. John Loose is coming on. John is unbelievable. He created Lawrence First and Goal. Lawrence First and Goal is a nonprofit organization. It's a labor of love started in 2004 by John and Marianne Loose in honor of their daughter, Lauren, a pediatric brain tumor survivor. Since the inception, Lawrence First and Goal has raised $2.87 million towards the mission to provide financial support to brain tumor research and cancer services, to offer financial and emotional support to families living with pediatric cancer, and to increase awareness of the disease. LawrenceFirstandGoal.org. Read about it. Donate if you can. There's clinics, there's courses. I went to these camps as a kid. You would roll into this camp up at Lafayette College in Pennsylvania, and there would be a rainbow of shirts of all different colors of college football coaches watching you. And I would say in the hundreds. And you're just like, holy cow, there's nothing like this. I got better. I went there even when I had a scholarship. My dad made me, and I was like, Dad, I already have a scholarship. Why am I going to this? We signed up for it. It was a donation. John is also a coach at Army West Point. And I'm at the point now, Jack, where I have to rooting interest for like every team in like New Mexico. Big weekend this weekend, Jack. Our boy Matt John, shout out. They're opening up Saturday. I mean, they're one of the big games, Jack. Premier. Are you going to be dialed into New Mexico versus whomever?
Maybe. I saw the first thing I saw from week 0, which was not a great start for this team, is Delaware State missed their team bus to New York for their flight to Hawaii. So that game might be in jeopardy just from the fact
missed the team bus.
They missed the team bus and they missed the flight. They said the exact quote. The
bus
exact
can't
quote,
leave without them.
Yeah, the exact quote was a bus snafu. So maybe somebody forgot to book the bus. Maybe it got double booked. The bus didn't show up. The bus broke. It was a snafu of some sorts. But long story short,
out of New York.
That's what I would assume. I mean, I can't imagine where else would they like Philly? Maybe I don't know where Delaware
Oh, they're
State is.
flying out of Philly, bud, or BWI, or Wilmington if it's private.
I mean, I don't know. That's what I saw one comment say New York City, but
No. Well, listen, I don't know the number. You probably could Google it while we're chatting. How much they got paid to play in that game at Hawaii? But Hawaii paid them lots of money. That's how it works for these non-conferences. Is as I rub my eyes here for those watching on YouTube because I have a child and I'm up till whenever and I'm up early. And I'm delaying for Jack to find that is like Michigan App State. I think App State got paid like $1 million and App State beat Michigan and they paid them. When I was at Florida, we paid Georgia Southern like $750,000 and they beat us. Shout out to Jarek McKinnon running the ball. Ripped us. We had like walk on starting everywhere. Go ahead, Jack. What do you got? Anything?
Well, I was gonna say it was the specific issue surrounding the buses transporting the team was not announced. They were flying out of JFK, New York City. That is.
So they're probably not flying private. They are flying commercial.
That's going to be the most amazing commercial flight of all time for those not on the Delaware State football team. You now have a near empty flight from New York to Hawaii. Like that's got to be so like an empty like that's got to be awesome. You probably have a whole.
You got to get on a bus. You got to get on a bus from Del State. 3 hours to JFK, maybe more, and then you got to fly. 10 hours to Hawaii. Probably got to stop in LA to fuel up. Who knows? In the next episode of We Can't Talk About This, we got to get it back to the Eagles. But I'm kidding. This is not 97.5 The Fanatic or the WIP. Hair looks good today, Jack, by the way. Check us out, guys, on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your pods. Fun things coming. There's been a lot going on behind the scenes here at Not For Long Media. And we're excited for the future. There's a great new series coming out. That's going to be a reinvent the wheel for us and Not For Long. Food Drinks Football, which I'm really excited about. So lots going to be there. We already talked about the Baldy breakdowns. A few different things I want to send it over before sending it to John Loose. This is a great interview. Appreciate everybody tuning in and staying with us here. I want to touch on this. Jack, I think we need to encourage media members and people just in general, myself included, when I do shows on Sirius around here, like as long as we stay healthy, as long as we remain healthy, if this player can be upright, and I get it, players and teams, right, may have an injury history to them, right? This organization, they get hurt more in the, playoffs. They're not always healthy going into the playoffs. This organization, these type of position players get hurt all the time, right? You hear it running backs, like they're always dinged up and what's the tread on the tire? And it's like, I get all that. It's all part of the evaluation. It's all part of this, that, and the other thing. But at the end of the day, we have to stop saying if this team remains healthy, because guess what? It's irrelevant. We can't control it. And I would say for those players, if they're doing everything they can, prehab, rehab, the whole nine, that they're doing everything they can to stay healthy too. I bring this up for Saquon Barkley. I think Saquon Barkley is an MVP candidate this season, period. I've said it 6 times on the show now. No one's brought him up. People have forgot about this cat. Okay, he said injuries. Well, they ran power high, counter, old school offense with him and the Giants. And he was great with it. Injuries? Yeah. The team looked a lot different than the Eagles, though. That's fair. That's safe to say, right? That the GM of the Giants would say that. The GM of the Eagles would say that. The team looks different. The two teams are in 2 different parts of their kind of development as an organization. Doesn't mean one's bad or one's – no. Eagles obviously are a better organization right now when it comes to winning, but the Giants are blue blood, first class. You go around and you sit in an NFL locker room and you're sitting there and you say, "Now, who'd you play for?" "I played for the Giants." "I heard they were great." Yeah, they were. They're awesome. They're just struggling to put some W's on the board. So, lots to discuss there. I just think it gets a little over a while. If he remains healthy, they're going to be a Super Bowl contender. It's like, no shit. That's how it is. That's the league. That's the NFL, man. It is 100% who's healthy. That's why. And I was on a call this week with Troy Vincent, NFL. There was like 30 of us on there, media stuff, talking. They are putting an extreme emphasis on protecting quarterbacks. And the first thing he said in the meeting was, hey, listen, we all know, and we've all been on teams, when the quarterback's not healthy, how that goes for everybody. It affects everyone. Take us back to Carolina. Everyone's healthy. Everything's hunky-dory. I'm on the active roster. Okay? Just thinking back to my world, right? It's our show, but let's draw the story into like how it's relative to those listening that actually care about me and Jack and the show. So it's 2021. It's Carolina. It's the end of the COVID stuff. And we're rolling. We were 3-0. Sam Darnold was the leading rusher in the NFL through week 4. Touchdowns. I think he had like 8. Stupid. Or like 5 or 6. And King Henry had like 4. The Carolina Panthers looked like, in the Matt Rule era, looked like we turned the corner. We were for real. So we had some fluke losses. Not fluke, but we lost. They were tough losses. We should have beat Minnesota. Lost to them in overtime. We were winning in the fourth quarter there. We were beating Philly by 2 scores. They came back and beat us in regulation. That was rough. One of the worst games I've played as a pro. Long story short, I'm sweating thinking about it. Losing that game now. Literally just broke out in a sweat. And lost my train of thought. I mean, that game crushed me as a player, and I would love that game back. But I played okay, but there was just like some bigger plays that I wish I could have back. Man, that hurts. I never can get rid of the ones I lost. Let me move on. Let me be a pro here. Jeez. I wanted to play so well, Jack. I wanted to prove that like all the people at the game, like I don't care about distractions, and I didn't play bad because of any of that. I just ball bounced the other way that game. You know, Jack, sometimes you just have that. Kind of like the broadcast here. The ball.
Yeah, I've had some similar instances in some high school football games. We had some tough losses against some teams.
It was the beginning of the end.
TV West.
It was the beginning of the end in Carolina, which sucks because we should. I firmly believe that we were the right group to do it. And it didn't work out for whatever reason. But I move on. So Sammy D gets hurt against Atlanta. Smoked on his own read. Smoked. Bad shoulder injury. He's going to have a great year for Minnesota, too, by the way. It's neither here nor there. He's going to have a Baker year, but they won't be able to pay him in Minnesota. He'll go elsewhere. So we get smoked. He gets smoked, and we go to backup quarterbacks. That's when the Cam thing. I'm back. So they brought in Cam. They brought in Barkley to be the third string with P.J. Walker. I believe Will Greer was still there, too. Maybe Will just got cut and went to Dallas. Whatever it was. They ended up being like 3-4 quarterbacks on the active roster because Cam and the quarterbacks, like 2-minute drill, like who's going to do 2-minute drill if Cam's a starter, PJ's doing 2-minute. It was all different things. Well, ended up getting guys, myself included. I got cut. I ended up coming back to the team and active again. But like quarterbacks need to stay upright, need to stay healthy, period, for the health of the league. And whatever it needs to take, quarterbacks don't need to get their head knocked off anymore. And players are doing a great job. And Troy said it on the call. Players aren't getting enough credit for how they're trying to protect the quarterback, whether they're trying to hit him or not. Like, unless it's a Super Bowl, like, protect them. Because it ends up affecting the players, the families. It ends up affecting seats. Ends up affecting ticket prices. Ends up affecting, you name it, parking, local hotels, businesses. Keep the quarterbacks, whatever you can, upright. Is that me, Jack, with the mic? Or is that you? Just
no, that was my chair. My chair needs some WD-40.
Okay, so I don't. We've been on this thing for 17 minutes. I have no idea what we talked about today. So remain healthy is a quote. I wanted to talk about that today. There's 2 other things I want to hit before sending it over to John. I thought this was really cool. This is really interesting. Have you? I don't know if you've seen this yet. If you know who I'm about to talk about, don't say it. But I want to have you guess this player.
Okay.
If this tight end in the NFL has 40 receptions this season, he will join Jeremy Shockey as the only tight end in NFL history to do so each of their first 8 seasons.
First 8 seasons.
40 receptions this year. He'll join Jeremy Shockey as the only tight end in NFL history to do so in their first 8 seasons. That's pretty ridiculous. And 40 is a lot, but it's not like 100 like Kelsey.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. So that would be 2016. So, like, somebody's like 31. I feel like that's got to be, like, the only 2 names that are really coming to me right now are Kittle and Mark Andrews.
Interesting. He came in the same draft class as me, 2017. On the same team.
Oh, Evan Ingram?
Evan Ingram. Ding, ding, ding. It doesn't count. I gave you too many good ones. There's only one other tight end that was taken at me with the Giants. Now, I'll say this. Shout out to Evan, first off. Shout out to our boy Drew Lieberman, too, who works for them. But shout out to Evan Ingram. This guy works his ass off. He works with our boy Drew. He is a great guy. He doesn't get enough credit to how physically strong he is and how he can block, but he's such a good athlete and runs so well and runs great routes, physical with them, explosive, can jump over players, can run through you. I'm really happy he's found a home there in Jax. The work with Trevor Lawrence and that thing, what happened in New York, and people are saying he's got dropping issues and all this stuff. It's just a part of football. There's going to be good days and bad days. So Evan's a stud, and he has an opportunity to be in that company of the only player to have 40 catches in the first, let's see, what was it again? First 8 seasons of their career playing tight end. That's a big deal. That's a big deal. So props to him. Works his ass off to stay healthy, makes sacrifices to stay healthy, tough mentally through drops and fumbles and normal football stuff. So props to Evan. I want to give that little fantasy football note, Jack, before we let everybody go. I love giving a little fantasy juice, Jack, because there's a couple tight ends I want people to keep an eye on fantasy football-wise. So tight ends that I think you should keep an eye on, not the big-name guys. Of course, Kittle and Kelsey and Andrews. They're going to have great years. I'm talking about the guys that maybe people are forgetting about a little bit. Jonnu Smith going to Miami in that offense. They haven't had like a premier pass-catching tight end. Jonnu could do both since Mike Gesicki. So Jonnu, Philly guy, I think he's got a nice year in Miami. They have so many weapons. He's going to touch the ball. They're not going to be double teaming Jonnu with that receiving group. So Jonnu is going to eat a little bit down there. I think Kyle Pitts has an amazing year with Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins is playing the same offense that he played in Minnesota. The OC came from L.A. Kevin O'Connell is from L.A. Connect the dots. They're going to be healthy and connected and moving and humming at a high rate very early. Him and Pitts will be great. I think Gesicki going to Cincinnati is something not talked about enough. He's going to have a monster year. He's a great athlete. Gerald Everett and Cole Kmet with Chicago. They're fun to watch already. They have tons of weapons at receiver, and they're the 2 tight ends. They're both going to get the ball. To some extent, I don't know. But a rookie quarterback's best friend, is the tight end. And then Johnny Mutt and Josh Oliver in Minnesota. Hawkinson's down. There's 2 guys that aren't like crazy big-time household names in the league, but Josh Oliver is one of the best blocking tight end athletes, big moves, great in the league. I think he's going to have a nice year there and get the ball. He always has a couple catches off the play action stuff. Big dude. And then Johnny Munt's a 3rd tight end there. When Hawkins is healthy, the guy can do everything at a high level. So I would keep an eye on those tight ends for fantasy football this year, other than the big boys, of course, that we all know are going to catch balls and have a great year. Anything else, Jack? I think defensively, I was going through this. A couple teams other than the obvious that I think are going to have great defenses. Washington Commanders here. Yahoo Sports has them all the way down at 31 for your fantasy football defense. Cleveland Farrell, Darren Payne, Jonathan Allen, Armstrong, Frankie Louvu, Wagner, Dante Fowler, Jeremy Chin. They have some good corners. And Dan Quinn. Defensive mind as a head coach. So their defense is not going to be 31st in the league. I like them as a sleeper. I like the Titans as a sleeper. I think they've made some good moves. That's a team trending in the right direction. I like the Cardinals as a sleeper this year. And honestly, when it comes to just making plays and stepping up, because they're going to have a high-powered offense, I like Chicago and I like Philly. Again, there's a lot of defenses there, of course, but there's some of the sleeper teams for me that are going in the right direction. Are you serious with this thumbs up thing, Jack? All right, so there's a little fantasy advice there, just a little bit. Just a taste, nothing crazy, Jack. Shout out to our friends at Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com, shipping fudge and sweet treats around the country. Can't wait to get down to Cape May for Labor Day and get some fudge. And then our friends over at Boiron Arnicare, boronusa.com, homeopathic care to taking care of your health. All right, Jackie Poole, let's send it over to John Loose. Go out and mow that lawn, Jack. Are you mowing the lawn today, Jack?
Tomorrow.
Can you send us a picture and tweet at the show and give us an update on how it's going?
Maybe. I'll ponder it.
Enjoy John. The guy's a legend of a human being. Great coach, amazing father, husband, awesome guy. Thanks, John. All right, so we're joined by legend in the football business, John Loose. He is assistant head coach, outside linebackers coach, but truly that's not your impact. That's just a part of it. You created Lawrence First and Goal, an amazing football camp that many thousands of young men went to and thousands of coach went to create an impact. on the world, on your daughter. And it changed my life because it was the first time I got in front of good, like, coaches with all these, pretty color shirts and hats, and they're talking and you're running and you're pointing us in different directions. And I'm this kid from Bucks County, Pennsylvania, like, okay, I want to do this. This is really cool. And, after whatever, in and out of the NFL for the last 7 years and played at Florida and Temple, it's still something I talk about on a yearly basis with my family, with recruits, with whatever. So, John, first off, how are you doing? How's your summer break?
Good. Thanks for the great intro, and thanks for having me. It's great. I'm in Long Beach Island, New Jersey right now for the last couple of days of that vacation before we, jump into that submarine called the season.
Oh.
And I'm excited about our season, excited about our football team, but it's, you're always, as a football coach, you like these days off. So I got a few days left. I've been doing a lot of fishing and kayaking with the Dolphins and doing all kind of paddleboarded yesterday. I'm trying to get every second out of the day I've done.
Yeah, man. I know the feeling as a player and as my career is winding down. The older you get, the less anxiety what do you have, because you know what it takes and the confidence, and you just walk down there and do it. You're not as nervous. But right around this time every year, I'm like, man, it's time to go. It's time to go. And it's like, and then when you get into it, you're great. But the first 2-3 days to get into it, man, you're just like, oh man, this take me back to the beach, that lackadaisical lazy lifestyle. It's not for me. I know it's not for you, but it's pretty damn good when you have it. So I'm happy you get some time off here before the grind. I know you've been recruiting. I know you've been doing your thing. Just talk about where you guys at before we get into, Orange First and Goal and all these different things. You brought up Army. You got to talk about Army football. What's it like to be a student athlete there? I think that's always a huge question.
I don't think it's as crazy as you think. I mean, I really don't. One of our coaches said something I thought was really neat. Like we're walking by the TVs, and the TVs are constantly running, old games, right? And we've been very successful against Air Force and Navy now the last 7-8 years, right? And they're throwing up one of the players, I think it was from Air Force Academy, in his daily schedule. And one of our coaches who played at quarterback at Indiana, and he laughs when he's walking by. He goes, I laugh every time I see that. He goes, how's that different than any football player at major college in the whole country? Like, really? I mean, maybe the classes are probably harder. You really go into class, those things, but I don't think it's as crazy as you think. I really don't. I think that, and, I've been at Army twice. Jeff Monken does an unreal job at this and of team building, but also getting our players what they need to be successful as a major college football player and thus program, right? I really do. So I don't, most of the summer training is all done this summer. It's condensed. You go into college. I think the hardest part of going to West Point is probably their real classes, their real grade, real classes and all that. So I think that's hard, along with the, being a major college football program, right? So same as Temple and Florida. We do the same things. We do 2 weeks of military training, and then we do 4 weeks, get a little bit of time off, 4 weeks, do a little bit of time off, take a class. So they have a light and load in the, they take less classes than I took in college, seriously, in the fall. I mean, so it makes them tougher. I'm convinced with the portal, and this is another part, but with the portal and the NIL money that's out of control, in my opinion. I mean, I hope they have contracts like you had in the NFL and like I have as a college football coach, right? But I think it helps us. It really does, because we have one transfer in our entire program, and he came from a MAC school, and he came there because his brother officially visited, and he saw what his brother was going to do, and he came. Like, we have one in our whole program. We're going to play teams that have 17 or 18 every year. So who do you think's got the better locker room? And, Jeff Monken says it all the time, and I'm a huge believer. It's not we're not trying to win a track meet, right, or swim meet, like who's the biggest, fastest, strongest. And we're good at that too. I'm just saying that the best team wins, and we can have the best team, just because our kids, if you don't want to play football anymore at West Point, stop playing football. right? So I think that makes a big difference. I really do. But coaching our kids is I always tell them the most fun I have is going into that meeting room and then going on the practice field and being around the kids we are, because they are top of the crop. And you know this too, right? As you get older, you learn that the number one thing I think that influences your success in life is the people you surround yourself with. And what better place than West Point to surround yourself with those people, right?
If you're in the excuse me, what do they say? If you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room, right?
You're in the wrong room. Exactly right. I mean, I've seen that lots of times. And
I've made those decisions in my life over the past 10 years, and they were tough. A lot of them were hard, personal and professional, right? I'm not going to get into things, but a lot of different degrees. They're hard decisions to make, right? And I transferred to Temple. I thought I was going to be the smartest person in the room coming from Florida. Little did I know, I was walking into a team that had great culture and great coaches: Fran Brown, Elijah Robinson, Matt Rule, Phil Snow, Ed Foley. It was a who's who. Now, when you go back and look, Frisman Jackson, Satterfield, all these guys are in the NFL, college football. And
it was a great staff. There's no doubt. I mean, you guys did a great job. It's a great staff. And I used to work the camp at Temple, and I was so impressed with Coach Rule. And, he spoke at he did a great.
He can speak now. He is going to give you nuggets where you're like, damn, I wish I could speak like that guy.
When he first got to Nebraska, he was my first featured. We got him as a featured speaker for Lawrence First and Goal, and he was phenomenal. I was so impressed though the way he ran camp, and that's why you guys built that program. He did a great job with it.
Yeah, he really did. Let's talk about a little Army some more. I think it's. First off, to all those people that serve, thank you for your service, right? I live right next to the academy here at Navy. It's something special living right near an academy, whether Army, Navy, it's really cool. And it's an ultimate sacrifice. People are unbelievable. A friend of mine, Michelle Tumalo, is the women's lacrosse coach there. So she's a great gal too. If you ever pass her, she's.
Oh yeah. Yep. She's really impressive now.
Yeah. She's South Jersey girl. So she's a huge Eagles fan. She's nuts deep down inside.
They love her. She's already doing great things, but it's just going to get better and better here now.
She's legit.
They'll get the support, and they can get some real women to come here and do.
Oh yeah, she'll get them, and she loves coaching there. She had nothing but great things to say. But just from your perspective, like the type of you talked about it before. You did the cardinal sin. I'd impressed record when you came on. I wanted to catch up and get to know you. Never really talked face to face or virtually, but you made up a great point about just financially, how this place sets you up. You said, I've coached absolutely multimillionaires. These guys that play in the NFL and make hundreds of thousands or maybe a couple million. You're like, that's nothing compared to what these guys I coach make. You're set up for life. Explain that. I didn't know what that was until, again, I was around Navy program, and a guy played 4 years at Navy, my buddy Pierce Bamberry, and he was telling me about, he was a big O lineman. He was telling me about different things, like all these different benefits about when you get out, that I had no idea about. I'm sure you guys go over that in recruiting, but like talk about that. Like what when you graduate from West Point, okay, what's that mean, and the type of people you're working with, and then how well they've done post-career.
One of the go-tos I use in recruiting, because I've been here twice, right? So I was at Coast Guard Academy. So I've coached admirals and generals, both. And my daughter went to Coast Guard Academy. My dad went to Merchant Marine Academy. So my dad had the best job in town, was an engineer, could have left a ton of times, and built he built the power plant, International Salt Company, literally put it together. So he's really, really smart, so I was never the smartest guy in the room at home. Right. So, but it's just what they do. I always have this go-to, I think I say a lot, like if I could show you where you'd be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years in a crystal ball, you would do this tomorrow, because they worry about that 5-year commitment, but 70% of the West Pointers stay in past that. And it ends up being the hardest decision you'll ever have to make, is whether to get out of the Army or not. Like, it happens over and over and over. So, and being here all through the 90s, I've coached guys that are, literally 50 years old now. Right. So I talk to them all the time, and I can use them as reference points, and, try to even connect them sometimes with the recruits, with the alums. But the 5 years that they always worry about, that's what really, I guess, separates them from the rest of the world, because you're in charge of troops, you're in charge of people. It's not all fighting bad guys. There's there's 17 different Army branches, right? There's all these different areas you can do, but you're in charge of people, you're middle management, and, I had an alum tell me one time, he goes, and I got on LinkedIn, which, professional Facebook. He said in 24 hours, I was 42 different companies contacting me about a job. That's not normal. You know what I mean? That's not. And then, I'll tell that story and a parent will go, hey, at my company, we get a pile of resumes. And if one's a West Point grad, we push all the other ones aside and attack that resume. Like, people, they don't understand. Like, we got more astronauts in NASA than any school in this country, right? We have per capita, we have more Fortune 500 CEOs than any school in this country. We've had 2 presidents, 3 Heisman Trophy winners, but, they talk about the long gray line, and I go on and on and on, but, wherever you go, grads are going to help grads, right? But it's different here because of what they can do. And I think I said it off air, but the number one thing that really affects how you go in life is the people you associate with. And what better place than West Point? Right? Seriously. Wow. I mean, it just, I could pick up the phone right after this and call Anthony Noto, the CEO of SoFi. And he's going to pick up. If he's not in a meeting, he's going to pick up. And you listen to what these people do. I mean, it's amazing. And you Google how much money, and it's not all about money, but it's the opportunity. But if you want to do those things, those people are associated with not just West Point, but Army football. I was talking to one of my former players the other day, because he called me because both his sons want to come here, right? And that happens.
Isn't that the best though? How special does that make you feel? I mean,
that happens over and over and over.
Isn't that cool?
I've coached. I recruited.
Because you're old. Because you're old.
I'm jumping off one story to another, but I recruited a kid one time about 5-6 years ago, and one of my buddies gave him to me, right? And he goes, "This kid's too good to play for us," but he really didn't have anything going. And so anyway, so I watched his film, like him, call him up, and I start telling the West Point spiel, and he goes, "Coach, my dad played football in the Army," and I look at his last name, and I said, "Hey, is your dad Jeremy Chapman?" Like that. And he goes, "Yeah." And he goes, "Put your dad on the phone." I recruited him. And he came. And when I asked the dad, I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Why'd you come?" He goes, "Because you convinced me to come here." He's from Arizona. He had all the Ivy League schools. He goes, "You convinced me you could play better football." And I said, "What are you doing now?" He goes, "I'm in the United States Army. I'm in charge of 3,000 troops. I'm an engineer. I got a PhD from Stanford." You know what I mean? And so, I'm sure he has an MBA or, has a master's, and he has a PhD, and he got paid to do all that. This is the best deal on earth. But anyway, so I was talking to one of my other recruits who's all their sons and daughters want to come here. Not all, but they always have somebody who wants to come here because they see what their parents doing. And I said, "What are you doing right now?" And he goes, "I'm taking one of my classmates who's a general now fishing." I said, "What do you do for a living? Like, what do you do?" And he goes, "Coach, I'll be honest with you. I've been retired for 9 years, completely retired. Like, I do some stuff on the side, but I'm retired." He's 49, got in the corporate world and retired when he was 40. I mean, I'm 59 and I can't see retirement.
Yes,
I
you
mean,
can.
It's crazy.
They're paying you well up there. I don't want to hear it.
That's a good job. I'm just saying. I mean, I got a ways to go now.
You'll never retire. These football guys, man, they can't just take their money and run. They got to.
I saw Paul Pasqualoni. I go up to.
Oh, what a legend!
No doubt. I go up to Avon Old Farms, and I look, and he's coaching the D line at Avon Old Farms. And then I turn on TV, and he's coaching the USFL, XFL, right?
And then I was with him in Carolina.
He spoke at he was one of our featured speakers one time. But that's what I'm saying, right? He was at Carolina, right? And him and they're just Coach DeLeon, who was there, was a legend who passed away. I mean, they were.
Oh, you want to talk about the ultimate, the ultimate disrespectful thing I've ever done in my life? I just did it. I didn't include George DeLeon on that staff I talked about.
Oh, that's all right. He was after we won that game.
The best.
He walked up to me. And he was so complimentary, and
he's the best in the world. We beat Navy here in a locker room 100 yards from my house. And I love playing for him. You kidding me? It's like a blocking tight end. Like
Yeah,
we
he's
just watched
awesome. Yeah.
Browns tape the whole time. It was like Joe Thomas and another guy tripling and Trey blocks. And I was like, oh my God, I'm all in. Duo. And long story short, he grabbed me. I'll never forget it. Best compliment I ever got in football. We won the championship. I hugged him. I said, George, thank you for everything. You changed my life. There's no way I'm here without you. And he said, Thompson, I'll always remember you as a football guy. And I was like,
No, that means a lot. No doubt.
I lost
especially coming from him.
That's
Especially coming
right.
from him. He was such a legend. You know, I knocked on his – I was looking for one of my buddies when he was coaching the NFL, and they were in a hotel when I was recruiting. I knocked on the wrong door, and it's George Leone's.
hey, John, come in.
Most people will be watching Cinemax or something. George doesn't have a TV on, and he's got his computer, and he says, come on in. He's got his computer, and he's watching all kinds of plays and stuff for, the next game.
Unreal. He would every time I'd go by, he's either nodding off in his desk again. I'm not, folks. He works like 24 hours a day, so he'd sparingly take a little nap, or he'd get in Philly, he was a major health hazard because all the food in Philly, pizza, he'd have sarcoma belly. Colin, you got to go down here. You go right, make a left. You go in there. Billy's behind the counter. You get this. I'm like, this is the best. He is the greatest. R.I.P. He is a
great human being. I'll tell you one last story, which was crazy, right? When his wife, she passed away from cancer.
Angel,
right? She was so great. So, but when Lauren had spinal surgery, and they took a big tumor out of her back. It took 2 days of surgery and the whole thing, and she had to have 6 or 7 weeks of radiation down at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, right? So they'd stay at the Ronald McDonald House, and Marianne, she was going under radiation also, and Marianne talked to her every day, and they talked for weeks, and nothing ever came up about what their husbands do, right? Just talking about, life and everything. And Marianne really fell in love with her. She's so great. She fell in love with Lauren and Marianne. And in fact, she came to the house. Roberta did everything else. So, but she, when she was talking, she finally one day, Marianne said, what does your husband do or something? She says, my husband coaches college football. Or coaches professional football. I don't know what it was at the time. He's a football coach. And she said, what's his name? She said, George Leone. My wife goes, I know who George Leone is. Like, are you kidding me? Anyway, she sat in her house, and I remember talking to George about it, and his son too, because his son spoke at our clinic too. Yeah. And but anyway, what a great lady.
Great family. I got to see George. We played Miami, and it was right when I was like starting to be like inactive in Carolina. Cam Newton came to us. It's kind of the beginning of the end for me there. And I was on the roster next year, ended up getting hurt, but I wasn't playing great. I was kind of pissed. Of course I wanted to play great, but just ball wasn't bouncing my way. That's how it goes in this business. And George came out to me. He had cancer. He was in Miami. He drove over to see Rule and the guys. He's like, just keep going. You're the best. Nothing but nice things to say. And I went up my room and lost it again. I'm like, holy shit, this guy, he hit me, boom. And I went on, I had to finish the year strong, and just a legend. So we could talk about George all day. I would love to. One day I wanted to do this and I couldn't do it. It was something was going on, but I wanted to do a podcast just on George Leone. It would take forever, but just have coaches on to tell a story. I may do that one day, and I'll hit you up for it because
you absolutely could. No doubt. I mean, this guy's a lot better than me.
10 minutes, have like 20 people on and just go. My producer will kill me, but you know what? Hey, that's fine. That's what
you get. Paul Pasqualone. I mean, those two were together for so long and so much. I mean, it's just, and Paul's a legend.
George memorized the best stories. Are George had a flip phone and he knew people's numbers. He memorized them and would call people like recruits and coaches. You're like, what the heck? So
that's the opposite here. I don't know my wife's cell phone.
My wife still quizzes me on it, and thank God it's on our dog's collar. So when I'm lost, I'll look down on our dog's collar.
I would have to call her parents' house phone and ask
What's the number? 267. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, Army. Well, I got another team to root for this year. I'm a free agent coach for hats, shirts, whatever. My wife will kill you. Please don't say anything else. It's a rainbow in my closet of teams. But neither here nor there. Let's talk about Lawrence first and goal. I don't know where to start. I think you got to start us off.
Well, I can tell you how it started. I mean, obviously you went to the camp, which I'm fired up when you reached out way back. It was just awesome.
Also
so-
bought the coaches clinic for all of our coaches in Cape May and whatever, and referenced it. But now everything ends up on Twitter, Coach. I don't have to buy it, but that's neither here nor there.
No, I do, and there's no doubt. I mean, I try to retweet. There's some people out there that will shoot video of, just part of a clinic, right? And part of a clinic, and then I'll try to retweet it. I always wish I could do a better job selling it and pushing it, but I got a job, and my wife reminds me once in a while that we got a child with a brain tumor. Like, they're literally going to Philadelphia today for 2 appointments, and that's one of the reasons we're down here so much. But
we'll start over. I'm sorry, the origination of it.
So I was, I truly believe this was the first one-day camp in the country. I really do. I was up at Michigan working the camp, and I would think it's 03, working their football camp, and there's about 1,500 kids there, and it's Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday at least, right? And some kids are showing up for one day, but just to kind of work out for Michigan, right? And I don't know what hit me one day, but it's like Wednesday of the day and you're tired. And I looked around, I thought, man, I could do this. I could do this, a one-day camp, get a bunch of buddies to volunteer and donate it all to, brain tumor research, essentially, at the time. So I went home, and I had to convince my wife, which was really hard for a while, to convince her to do it. Well, let's wait a year and all that. And let's see. So I reached out. We had gone on these, they were called Ride for Kids. They still have them. They have about 50 of them around the country for Pediatric Brain Tumor Foundation of the U.S. And people, they do motorcycle rallies, but people that are, running hedge funds and all kinds of stuff show up with their Harley, and they go on a motorcycle ride. And at the end of it, Lauren and other kids like her would stand up and, wave to the crowd and maybe say something if they were old enough. And they made a bunch of money, right? And they did around the country. So I had to beg them to take money for the first camp. They were really concerned about liability and all that stuff, and they wouldn't really sponsor it. So the first camp, I go to the convention, and so this, the convention's in January, and I say, hey, listen, I'm thinking about doing this camp. And I talked to one of my buddies, and I said, hey, what do you think? This is what I'm going to do. And he goes, I'm in. And then I talked to another buddy. He goes, I'm in. Like that. Like, it was just immediate,
Plus, the nice thing for you, I'll add a nugget, is a lot of these coaches go to the Jersey Shore during the summer when the camp is, no?
Yeah. I mean, the camp ended when COVID hit.
When was the date of it usually?
It was always the first Sunday in June.
Okay, so you got a lot of coaches in the Northeast. You got some people on vacation. I get not yet.
Well, this thing is, what happened was, like, the first year, I mean, I went to the Nike clinic, and I spoke at the Nike clinic, and I hopped up there and I said, listen, this is my plan. I'm gonna do a one-day camp. It's all gonna be donation based, minimum donation $25. I'm gonna have coaches volunteer. Kids will come, so the coaches will get to see them. We're going to really coach them. It's not going to be a combine. We're going to coach them.
You got coached.
Kids will get seen, right? You got coached. So I remember one of the Lehigh coaches. So I'm at Lafayette. Lafayette is the oldest college football rivalry in the country, most played.
Right down the street.
The O-line coach, John Powers, walks up. He's kind of got a tear in his eye. He goes, hey, can I volunteer at this thing? And I said, absolutely. I said, we're not going to turn away anybody, right? So – and Lehigh's staff was there. But anyway, the first year we had 56 coaches and 325 kids the first year. And
how'd you get the kids to show up?
You know what? I never spent a nickel on any advertising until later. I'll tell you about it. But I never spent a nickel. I got on the internet every time. And in 2004, the internet wasn't.
No, that's why I was saying, how did you get people to show up?
I would spend hour after hour at night, and I looked for emails. And I just kept looking for emails and anything I could to try to promote it. So I kept emailing, and then I would call coaches during recruiting and say, hey, listen, this is what I'm going to do. Can you bring your team? And I got a couple of coaches to bring your team. The first year we had we had Cal, I don't remember his name anymore. We had Poly Prep brought a bunch of kids, and one of their linemen went to Notre Dame who was a longtime NFL player. So I would be willing to bet we had NFL players every single year, right? We
for
had
sure.
Rashawn Gary, Jabril Peppers, Saquon Barkley. I mean, it went on and on and on.
Even bad fourth-string tight ends, Colin Thompson.
No doubt. That's what I'm saying. There were so many. I mean, we took Elijah Riley out of the camp, and he's in his 5th year in the NFL, played for us. I recruited him out of Long Island, right? Yeah. So 5th or 6th year. And we still have guys on our team that went to the camp. So the first year I had 325. It was on a Saturday, which was the SAT day, which was a godsend in the end, because I literally, Colin, I went home on Friday night about 10 o'clock, and my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, my wife are sitting in the deck, and I laid out 4 folders, said, this is how we're going to register the campers tomorrow. I had 4 Excel sheets, like folders. And I said, I'll take the teams. I'll go in the parking lot, that one parking lot. Right.
Yep.
So luckily it was a Saturday. It was 325 kids. The next year I moved it to Sunday. I had 750 kids. And I thought, oh my God, the parking lot's filled. And then I started to walk around thinking, okay, where could I park at? Well, there was a track around the facility, cross country track. So anyway, it went, we went like a 950 to 1100. Then I talked Phil Simms with a little help into being the speaker. Bobby Ross was our speaker the first year. So it wasn't like we didn't have a guy. We had Bobby Ross.
You guys always had who's who. It was like and every other camp, right? Again, from a recruiting perspective, this is 2009, 10, 11 for me. 9 and 10 is when I went. Even after I had offers, I'm like, Dad, I'm not going to this camp. I got offers. He's like, son, we signed you up for this camp. BC, Pitt, Rutgers, the normal kind of Northeast 3.
That's right.
You're going. I'm like, what do you mean? I got the offers. Like, son, you're going. You signed up. So I went, and then I got more offers out of it. But you didn't.
No doubt. I mean, I had kids walking off the field with a high five me like, hey, thanks. Like, I got offers. And I got an email one time, and we got a ton of emails and letters after, right? And I got one that said, I drove up there and there was a line, and I thought, oh my God, what did we just draw? We drew all the way from Virginia. And we'd have kids from 17 states every year in the end.
I think you would say, like, who's from the farthest? Would you do that? Who's the closest?
Oh, yeah. We always have somebody from, like, we might have in Mexico. We always had Canadians, and we'd have.
I remember you do that.
We'd have crazy places, but it was 17 states, and it was, in the end, we had over 30,000 campers. We had 3 different camps. We had over 3,000 coaches volunteer at the camps, right? Over 3,000, and some, 14 years in a row. It just was crazy, right? But when Phil Simms spoke, that was the first time I spent some money. We actually put up a sign on the highway between Lafayette and Lehigh, put a big road sign with Phil Simms as the speaker. And that kind of blew it off the top. And then, we had the camps in Ohio and Florida. And my goal in life in the beginning was I was going to have camps all over the country, like Ride for Kids. And then it became evident that we wanted to make sure the product was phenomenal, which I always thought it was. And I wasn't making any money. It all truly goes to pediatric brain tumor research and cancer services. So we weren't paying anyone, and still don't. Not, there'd be 100 people registered people eventually, right? But everybody volunteered. We had as high as 450 college and some NFL coaches volunteer. And it was.
Oh yeah, I remember pulling up and
crazy.
Lehigh. It was like that big open field there.
It was so much fun, Colin. And every time what's really neat is when I go into a school, the majority of coaches will ask me how Lauren's doing, and you know what I mean. They're not, how's West Point? How's it, like, hey, how's Lauren doing? Been thinking about it, right? So obviously she affects a lot of people too. She get up there and speak every year, and she's 27 years old. She's a young woman now, right?
How's she doing?
Pretty good is the short answer. She's, we have 19 different doctors. She's a miracle in so many ways. And luckily I married the person I did because she can manage it all. She's an absolute rock star when it comes to all this, because if you watch my wife sit in a meeting with 5 or 6 doctors, and you didn't know if it just was a camera somewhere, it was a reality show, it would take you 10 or 15 minutes to figure out who the doctor and who the parents are. You know what I mean? Like the knowledge of, you know, she's had multiple surgeries and the whole thing. And now we're battling some things with her teeth. And, you know, because she had so much chemo as a young kid. But she is an absolute warrior. And, you know, once in a while somebody will say something, man, if our football team was as tough as she was, like, I mean, she had, you know, all her teeth are veneer, right? They're all, you know, they put them in, and we're working on that. But my wife,
she's tough, man. She's tough.
She's had spinal surgery and, you know, double cranium surgery for moya moya and all these things. And I don't think Lauren has ever pushed the pain pump, like ever. You know what I mean? Like they asked her, like she didn't take anything when they did her teeth. You know, just, you know, I don't know what it is. Thank God that, you know, she has these ailments, but God gave her the ability to endure pain like nobody. You know what I mean? Like nobody. She's not going to get addicted to painkillers.
Lawrence First and Goal is a nonprofit organization, a labor of love started in 2004 by John and
my wife,
Loose.
Marianne Loose.
Yeah, Marianne Loose, in honor of their daughter, Lauren, a pediatric brain tumor survivor. Since its inception, Lawrence First and Goal has raised more than $2.87 million towards its provide financial support for brain tumor research cancer survivors, to offer financial and emotional support to families with pediatric cancer and increase awareness of the disease. So people can give lawrencefirstandgoal.org, donate. Top right corner.
If they go to lfgf.org, and I ask people all the time, please follow us on, you know, you can follow us on Facebook. You can follow us on X, which I really like, you know, as far as, because that's where I have the most. We follow on X. It's LFG Football Camp.
Yep.
My sister-in-law does a phenomenal job. We'll talk about the books, but does a phenomenal job with the Instagram. But if people can follow us, that helps us get the word out, because we don't spend any money. Like if you looked up some of the biggest charities in the world, you'd be shocked how much they pay CEOs and all this kind of stuff. We don't pay anybody. This is a true, you know, grassroots. I mean, the office is upstairs. I mean, it's my wife's doing it from her computer. I mean, you know, we just redid the website, which we're really excited about. We paid somebody a minimal amount to try to help us there, but it literally is. It's pretty close to 100% in, 100% out.
Guys, the honorary members of the board of directors, the type of people that go to this: Luke Fickle, Kyle Flood. Now there's others. I'm just saying notable names for people that would know: James Franklin, Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, Urban Meyer, Jeff Bunkin, Ken Niumatalolo, Bill O'Brien, Jim Tressel.
That's
pretty
right.
cool.
I mean, like
Bill
Paul
Pasqualoni. Paul Pasqualoni. Look at James. I love these pictures. Are great here. Kyle Flood when he's at Rutgers. Bill at Penn State. It's a great day.
Kyle Flood was on vacation down in LBI, and he came to the house to see Lauren.
Of course, he didn't come to see you. He
came to the house, and it was great to see him. I mean, he's the OC at Texas. I mean, you're right. I mean, but he took the time to drive through 100 lights to get here, but that's right. I mean, Jane Franklin will take my phone call anytime and would help with anything. They're all like that, and you know, we've had Dan Quinn speak now twice.
He is.
You know,
he recruited to Florida. My mom. He walked out. My mom said, "You got to go to Florida." I'm like, I know, Mom. He's the DC though. She's like, go play for that
doesn't
guy.
matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
And now he's in Washington. They're going to turn around Washington for sure. He's the guy to do it.
He is. He is so impressive. But it's the clinic has really become a great deal. But I ask people to please go to the website and check it out, because one, if you're a high school football coach, doing Pop Warner, doing college, doing NFL, those clinics will blow you away, because I think what has happened is a couple things with the clinics, right? Coaches volunteer their time to do the clinic, and they donate their clinic. They can make money. I mean, if you're the linebacker coach at the Philadelphia Eagles, you can make money off your clinic, right? I mean, seriously, you make money off your clinic.
Absolutely.
Right? You're Dan Quinn. You can make money off your clinic.
Big time.
And yet they donate the clinic. So we get, once Coach Tube takes their part, which we can make as much as 80% if you go to our website to buy the clinics, right? So you buy these clinics. I mean, I try to watch them as much as I can. and I learn something every single time. And
They're awesome.
it doesn't matter the level, Colin. That's the thing that's amazing is that, I watched the head football coach and the offensive coordinator at Cortland State, who just won the national championship. And the head coach went before he won the national championship. And it just blows you away. I invited Ithaca College, head football coach, Mike Torper, because I'm an Ithaca College grad. And his clinic just blows you away. And they're all like that. They're not, because I think two things. I think one, they want to be proud of what they put out there because they know people are going to see it with Lauren's First and Goals brand on it, right? And it literally, guys have told me that, hey, Chip Kelly reached out to me because he saw my clinic, like stuff like that. You get these crazy things because people are watching, so they put it out there. But they also feel like they're still doing something great and helping, children and kids in need, So
awesome,
it's just such a great thing donating it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, I want to talk about a few other things here and let you go. First of all, I listen, as an Archbishop Wood graduate, I got to talk about Connor Bishop. You talked about him before, but I think it's really cool for people to hear that follow this show about what Connor Bishop means to Army football, especially during his tenure there. Yeah,
like Connor Bishop, when I recruited him, he's a little shorter, right? He was a little shorter, and I remember going to I actually went to one of your top rivals. They had a showcase. It was St. Joe's Pratt, right?
Yep.
I go to the rival thing, and I'm there, and Connor had just committed to us verbally, and coach after coach after coach came up to him and said, "Man, you got a real guy. You got a real guy." And when you do this recruiting as long as I have, you'll meet with a kid initially, and you either like him during the process more or less. Right? You feel like that kid is what we are or he's not. And Jeff Monken says all the time, like, just because somebody else is recruiting him, we don't have to take him. Right? Andy Talley said this to me a long time ago. It's not the ones you lose that beat you. It's the ones you take. And he's more right than anyone will ever understand unless you coach football. Right? So anyway, the more you got to know him, and his dad played against us at East Carolina. He played offensive line at East Carolina and played against us when I was here in the 90s. So, but his family got it. He got it. He understood what it was. And sometimes you recruit a kid and as you keep going, you go, you know what? That kid might be captain. And when you're captain of the United States Military Academy at West Point, man, that's saying something, right? I mean, when you're the head manager at West Point, that's saying something. 1 out of every 4 of those at one point was becoming general. Douglas MacArthur was one of them. You know what I mean? It just, but anyway, he was our captain. He was such a stud. He was such a war daddy. And he was in that transitional group that got us between being 2-10 and being the CIC champs. I mean, it really made a difference.
That's great. And he's a great kid, and we've interacted through social media, and a huge supporter of him. And I've met him maybe once or twice in passing. It was during the bulk of my kind of NFL career when he was at college career, and I missed him. It's tough to get back to your school, but lastly, I think this is a good little topic to talk about. These guys going to play in the NFL. What are the rules with that, right? Like, I'm sure
that's a great question. I don't know if I have the answer. I think the answer, and I'm sure we'll go back to this. The answer became with Trump, which is an unreal story, which I won't share with you, but an unreal story, but that it turned out that they would let him just go play in the NFL and then defer their commitment, right? So. And it's worked out. And we have 6 guys in the league right now. It's been really good.
I think you have to let guys go. I was debating with a Marine right here at Navy, had an Irish bar right across the street from there. No, the favoritism. I'm like, what are you talking about? These guys are marketing for the school at the highest level, at the brightest lights. Right. And they're great. And to me, I would say this personally, and John, I'm cutting you off. I'm sorry. But this is something I'm passionate about. While they're with an NFL team, and if they make the roster, like Carter in Minnesota, this Saturday, if it's a home game, you have to go to the Army football watch party in Minnesota and spend an hour there, or watch the first half there if it's applicable, and make that a part of your service. Going to the Army people of Minneapolis, shaking everybody's hand, looking everybody in the eye. paying for some food and a round of drinks for everybody and saying freaking, go Black Knights, and make that a part of their service. And the more they do that, the less they have to serve on the back end. Cause I think that's a part of it. I don't know. I thought of that idea. We've talked it through.
I agree. Like seeing the service, there's so many things they can do.
Yeah.
And again, the hard decision these guys got to make someday when they do go in the service is whether they get out or not. Every guy tells me that to a man. Like, I'm going to make a lot more money in the private sector, but there's something to be said for I'm in charge of people. That's what I do, right? I'm a leader of men. I mean, and women, obviously.
Yeah.
Men and women, that's what I do. So I think they should be able to play. I do. I think it affects so few players, but from a recruiting standpoint, that's not what mom and dad think. That question comes up all the time. Like, and I tell them, listen, we got 6 guys in the National Football League. And if you're that first and second rounder, it doesn't matter if you go to Florida or if you went to Hobart, which literally happened, right? A few years ago, right?
Yep.
So, he's drafted 3rd in the round. He's from Hobart. Like, it doesn't matter.
Khalil Mack, Buffalo. Unbelievable.
That's what I'm saying. But when you're that 50-something, right? When you're that 50th guy on the roster, that 55th guy, that 50th guy on the roster, who are you going to take? You going to take a West Point grad? You just think about it. Like, and that's what I tell recruits all the time. It's like any other business at that point. It's like, I'm going to take Elijah Riley. I'm going to take, Andre Carter. I'm going to take, it goes on, because those guys can be the best guy in your locker room, right? I mean, it makes a difference. It really does. I coached Blake Costanzo at Lafayette, and Blake played 9 years in the National Football League. And he was a great special team guy and that stuff. But a lot of it was he was a great locker room guy, right? Yep. I mean, it still comes down to the best team. But I agree. I hope they can play. I think it'll continue to do that. I think right now, this last year, Jimmy Charlo from St. Joe's Montvale is just signed a 3-year deal with the Jets. And I coached him and helped recruit him. I'm really excited about him. I think it'll just keep going. But you're right. Those guys can be the face of the program. And they can really help us. So I do hope we keep doing that.
Blake Costanzo, that is a blast from the past for me.
Blake, I love it. Blake Costanzo took Lauren to the prom. We had a prom party, and it was a big deal. And Lauren wanted to have a prom party, and we did that. And Blake Costanzo took Lauren to the prom party and keeps in touch with her all the time. He was a part of all the recruiting pitches back in my day, coming out of high school. So I haven't heard that name since. He was awesome.
John, I appreciate you coming on. Enjoy your last.
I got one more thing. Can I fire at you?
Please.
I really want people to look into these books. Like, okay. If you click on how you can help, all the books are right there. My sister-in-law, we started out with one book. Somebody talked me into doing Lauren's First and Goal Drills and Skills, which is a drill manual that is loaded. Obviously everything wants to be visual now, but it's a great drill manual. But after that, my sister-in-law wrote a great book, Hope is Here to Stay, which is a children's book. And all the funds, like every nickel goes to Lauren's First and Goal and our mission. But it's a children's book that's illustrated by, I want to say the right thing, I think Splashes of Hope. They did all the illustrations. She wrote the book, but it would take you 5 minutes to look at it. It's a really neat book. And then there's another book that it'll bring tears to your eyes and you'll refer back to it. I wish every person would get it. I hope it really hits the map at some point here. And it's excerpts and from Lauren's speeches at the camps. So it's really cool. And then the last book that we have on there is Home Fields, which was another great story, but it's a great book. I mean, I've read 3 books this summer, at least probably. And I read that book during the season, which you know how hard that is. I mean, I'm reading on the buses and everything else before it was published. But it's Home Fields. It was written by longtime head football coach at retired now Coast Guard Academy, Billy George. And it's an unreal book. And part of the proceeds from that are going to us too. He donated the book proceeds to us. So anyway, you got to check out those books. They're really neat. And, I think those are, I want to keep pushing those books. I think they're really impressive.
LawrenceFirstandGoal.org. Click on how to help. Everything's right there, guys. All the books are available on Amazon. I'm looking at now. You got coaches clinics, community fundraisers, matching gifts, donations, grant writers, you name it, they got it. LawrenceFirstandGoal.org, an amazing thing that's done not just raising money for, cancer, your daughter, awareness, but changing lives of coaches and players in around the country, but primarily in the Philadelphia area where I grew up. It's had a lasting impact. So, John, good luck this season.
Hey, thanks a ton. Good luck to you too. I hope you'll be out there playing. And if not, I know you're going to be a great coach when you get done.
Thanks, man.